What is up, Steelers Nation? Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. I'm Noah Strackbine, joined always by my man in the corner, producer Nick Belsky. Find us on youtube.com/All Steelers Talk or subscribe anywhere you get your podcast. The Pittsburgh Steelers, well, if you haven't been paying attention and following along, you are about to get caught up on what has been one heck of a roller coaster ride up until this point, and it seemingly is coming to an end. The Brandon Aiyuk saga has one of two options, and in the coming days, or maybe the coming hours, or possibly the coming minutes, Brandon Aiyuk will have a final destination either with the San Francisco 49ers or traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers. We will dive into the latest reports and how close this trade is. I have spoken to sources. I've made some phone calls just to see all the craziness that is coming out here and what it really means and how it maybe is not as firm, or in other words, maybe closer to the end than some speculation is saying. We'll dive into that. Plus, we'll answer all of your questions as we do every single day. It's a beautiful one out here in the Berg. I spent all day waterproofing my basement, which was good up until I left. And, the lungs are feeling it a little bit. So I might have to toss a couple of questions your way to let you do some talking. How you feeling, my friend?
I'm feeling pretty good. Obviously, beautiful day, which is a good start to things. I said last week that we may be finally seeing the light at the end of the Aiyuk tunnel. Well, if that tunnel is the Fort Pitt tunnel, then we're starting to see a little bit of the bridge. Not quite the city yet, but it seems like the bridge is in sight, which thank God, because I'm ready for this to come down either way. Whether he stays in San Fran, whether he goes to Pittsburgh, we know those are the two final options at this moment in time. I just want to see the resolution. Like I said last Friday, I'm ready for it. And it seems like finally there's actually the end of the tunnel right in front of us. We just got to cross through it.
Yeah, I agree. We are here. So if you guys have not caught the latest news, according to NFL Network's Ian Rappaport, the Pittsburgh Steelers and the San Francisco 49ers have agreed upon a trade for Brandon Aiyuk. Now, that being said, no trade has officially happened. Instead, it is more so of a backup plan. There is option A for the San Francisco 49ers, which is to sign Brandon Aiyuk to a long-term deal. They have put a deal on the table for Aiyuk. They are waiting to hear back to see if he will accept it. If he does not accept it, he will be traded to the Pittsburgh Steelers, who have already, I guess in principle, agreed to what compensation would be for Brandon Aiyuk. And then, according to Rappaport, they are in good standings, quote unquote, good standings for a long-term deal with the San Francisco 49ers wide receiver, which means that we have come down to the final run of Brandon Aiyuk. Are you going to stay in San Francisco, or are you going to come to the Pittsburgh Steelers? Now, before I dive into anything, okay, I want to ask you your opinion. You saw that happen. Did your mind go, this is going to end with a San Francisco deal, or this is going to end with a trade to Pittsburgh?
To me, it looks like it's going to end with the trade to Pittsburgh, based on everything we've seen, especially today with the Rappaport report, because it's down to two things. Either San Francisco gives in and gives Aiyuk exactly what he wanted, or Ayuk's not going to sign. And if he doesn't sign, he's going to get traded to Pittsburgh. So to me, I think it ends up being the latter. I don't think San Francisco ends up caving based on where they're at with their current organization, with their current salary cap. I just don't see them caving to everything Brandon Aiyuk wanted or getting close enough for Brandon Aiyuk.
Yeah, so this is what I've been told. I made some phone calls as that comes out because, of course, like, this is new. This is shocking. Everybody's freaking out about what's going on with the San Francisco 49ers. Is this it? Is this the deal? Is it going to happen? So I made some phone calls, obviously. The phone calls I got, or the reports I got, the sources I spoke to told me this. This is the same offer that the Pittsburgh Steelers have put in several days ago. Nothing has changed. Instead, the San Francisco 49ers have said, this is our final offer to Brandon Aiyuk, which I have heard is reportedly closer. Now, obviously, my sources are in Pittsburgh, so they are not San Francisco sources. It's expected to be closer to Pittsburgh's number of $28 million than it was prior. Now, they have tossed that out there as a last chance, last ditch. Here you go, sign it or leave. and they are now waiting. Now it's in the court of Brandon Aiyuk. And if I have to put it into a guess, we know that I've hung strong to that 70%. I felt very good about the 70%. And I mean, if this happens today, I'm only 4 days late, 3 days late. I'll take that. That's not bad for making this guess 2 months ago that this is the exact date it's going to happen. The way I stand is this. If I'm Brandon Aiyuk, I did not want $26 million. If you have now upped that offer to $27 million, I am looking at it as this is a slap in the face. So what do I expect to happen? I expect Brandon Aiyuk to end up in Pittsburgh as a member of the Pittsburgh Steelers. I expect him to sign a 4-year, maybe a 3-year, 28 per year $million deal. Somewhere around $80 million guaranteed for the all-pro wide receiver. A good deal for both sides. And then on top of that, I expect the Pittsburgh Steelers to honestly get rid of him or get him for much less than we are anticipating him getting or them getting him for. I don't think a second-round pick is on the table for the Pittsburgh Steelers. I think it's a third-round pick plus a little bit, no players. From what I have been told, and this is not as of today, this is prior, that what I have been told, because once I spoke to somebody today and said, and got the response of this is the same deal that it was several days ago, I didn't need to ask more questions. At that point, I understood exactly where we stand. Several days ago, there was no player on the table for Brandon Aiyuk. It was just picks. I did not know what those picks were. I knew that the San Francisco 49ers at one point were asking for, quote unquote, a king's ransom. That's what I heard yesterday. Nothing has changed, except for the San Francisco 49ers have found themselves saying, we are done. I have also been told, and this is out of San Francisco, that Brandon Aiyuk has been in some heated conversations, very heated conversations with head coach Kyle Shanahan, and that things have been a little bit nasty in negotiations between those two. So if I had to guess, Brandon Aiyuk ends up in Pittsburgh. When? I don't know. To be honest, I'm hoping it comes. I'm just hoping here. Like I'm hoping that it comes maybe today, tomorrow morning would be fine. I don't really care. You got rid of Chase Claypool, went on season-ending IR. Shout out Chase Claypool. Hope he's doing good. But at that point, the Bills practice was totally ruined for me. So at this point, just give me Brandon Aiyuk. Let it happen. Let's figure it out from there. But I am ready to make it go and to finalize this entire roller coaster that we have been on. There's a lot of people in the comments saying, prepare to get your heart broken that he is not going to end up Pittsburgh Steelers. Let me ask you a side comment here, because this is something that we haven't spoken of. This is not something that we've really dove into. And I think it's a conversation worth having. Brandon Aiyuk has caused a lot of problems in San Francisco over the last X amount of days. Does that worry you at all? Does what has happened in San Francisco? Because at one point, my sources, team sources inside the building, in these talks, were saying we're worried because Brandon Aiyuk is a problem. He's presenting himself as a problem. Does any of that worry you?
It doesn't, because historically, more often than not, players that are a problem are quelled by the head coach. And the reason that Brandon Aiyuk wants to come to Pittsburgh specifically, outside of, he wanted to go to Washington to play with Jaden Daniels. I get that. He wanted to come to Pittsburgh to play for Mike Tomlin. You pay him, you give him that contract, and you let him play with Mike Tomlin. I don't see this as a problem going forward, because this is the first time we've heard of any issues, really, with Brandon Aiyuk that I've heard of on a national scale. Outside of that, it's just been, he was in the coach's doghouse because of certain on-field issues early in his career. He got over that. He had 2 phenomenal seasons for the 49ers, especially last year. And now, because it's a contract, he's trying to get what he wants. And I understand that. We're a Players First podcast. You say it all the time. So I understand him trying to get his money. I understand him trying to get his contract. And I understand him feeling a little bit jaded towards the situation in San Francisco because everybody else is getting paid. They spent a first-round pick on a wide receiver in the middle of your contract negotiation. And certain reports indicate that they basically had no conversations for a couple months this summer. I understand Aiyuk's side of things. I also understand why San Francisco would be a little upset about this at this point. But at the end of the day, if he comes to Pittsburgh, I think a lot of that fades into the back, and a lot of these issues that you're hearing about fade into the back as well.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. I'm not worried about it that much. I think money solves a lot of issues. I mean, money talks, man. Money makes life real good no matter what. And to be honest with you, he's coming to a situation where he's got a great head coach. Mike Tomlin knows how to control his players. He's got a good GM in Omar Khan who gave up a lot for him, who fought very hard for him. And because of that, he's going to have some appreciation. A good team with a good quarterback, good running back, a good defense, and some names that I think hold ground in the leadership level that they feel that he would feel pretty good about. I don't think I have much worry. Did you see the graphic the other day? I wish I could remember. Let's see if I saved it on Twitter here, where it was the top divas in the NFL. I did not save it on Twitter. I should have saved it on Twitter. This was the list. The list was, I forget who was number one. Number one was somebody. Number two was Brandon Aiyuk. Number 3 was Deontay Johnson. And then also on that list in the top 5 was George Pickens. Pittsburgh Steelers got a lot of hate on the diva side of things when it came to the wide receivers. Did you see that list?
I did, and I'm pulling it up here for those that are live on YouTube with us.
Stephon Diggs, Brandon Aiyuk, Deontay Johnson third is wild to me. Wild to me. Like, I get it. He's got his issues for sure. He's made some issues for sure. Third in the above Aaron Rodgers, above George Pickens. That's a wild one. They got a lot of hate on that. You agree? What's your thoughts on that bad boy?
The fact that Aaron Rodgers is anywhere outside of the top 2 is ridiculous, right? I mean, Rodgers can sneeze and it'll turn into a national story because of his past. So I don't understand how Deontay Johnson, who, there was a little bit of drama surrounding Johnson, but it was mainly due to what? Drops in his first couple of years that have been, for the most part, quelled, and also one play last year. I don't understand how that puts him at third, to be completely honest.
No. It's just, it's crazy how nobody remembers Deontay Johnson exists except for when they're talking about the drama that he causes in the NFL. Wild times. All right, we're going to dive into a lot of your questions when we come back surrounding the Brandon Aiyuk situation. But first, we got a word from our boys over at BetterHelp. This show is sponsored by BetterHelp. Have you ever found yourself scrolling on social media, maybe spending too much time on whatever platform you're addicted to and thinking, man, why am I feeling down? Why do I find myself not finding the joy that social media is supposed to give me? That's because comparison is the thief of joy, and it's easy to envy other people's lives. But therapy can help. It can help you focus on what you want instead of what other people have, so you can start living your best life. I'm somebody who's advocated for therapy for a long time. You constantly see me wearing the sweatshirt, going to therapy is cool. I've reaped the benefits for years, and I think everybody who's thinking about it should add that to their agenda as well, because in one way or another, it's very helpful. If you're thinking of starting therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online, designed to be convenient, flexible, and suited to your schedule. Just fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. Stop comparing and start focusing with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/allsteelers today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/allsteelers. Watching that ad, I realized how much work I still have to do in the new office. We looked good, man. We had a good studio going on for a long time. It's sad to go. I went over there yesterday to visit, and I was like, oh man, this is depressing. This is a nice comfy. I'm in a corner now, as you guys cannot tell, and it's a little entrapping, but we're getting there. And also, when the camera shakes, that's just my cat going nuts over here, man. The guy is just, it's the first time he's left under the bed since we've moved. So shout out to him. The Aiyuk situation. Let's dive into some questions, and then we'll dive into hopefully more of a topic of conversation when it comes to what's going on with him and everything else going on in the NFL. Let's start with this one, though. Is Van Jefferson going to give up the number 11? Because I've had a lot of people bring this one up. This is my answer to this question. It will remain the answer to this question. Money talks, my friend. And if you're not going to be a diva because of the money, I'm sure that you'd give up a jersey number because of the money. And Van Jefferson's $1 million deal with the Pittsburgh Steelers would look pretty nice when he got another $1 million to give up his jersey number for a season. I'd feel pretty okay with that if I'm Van Jefferson. So if I had to guess, yes. And it comes with a price tag, and that price tag is going to be very nice for Van Jefferson. Hopefully he uses it, to buy something nice, maybe a different chain besides the dog bones that he's got all around his neck. But, I would say yes.
All right, let's go to a couple other questions about the Brandon Aiyuk saga. Let's start with ZYE or Zai. I don't know which one you want to go with, but we'll say both. It says, glad to catch the pod live with trade season in full effect in my fantasy league. Who benefits more from this trade, George or Aiyuk?
George Pickens. Certainly George Pickens. I mean, look, at Brandon Aiyuk is already Brandon Aiyuk. That doesn't change. You know what I mean? Like, Brandon Aiyuk is still going to be the guy. He's still going to be a 1,000-yard receiver, 1,200-yard receiver, all-pro caliber wide receiver. The main impact is George Pickens now has a guy, the best wide receiver he's played with possibly in his entire career, with the best quarterbacks that he's played with in the NFL, and a great offensive scheme. And we saw how good that offensive scheme was against the Houston Texans. So this is certainly a benefit to George Pickens. I think this moves him up the scale of 1,000 to like maybe 1,000 with 10 touchdowns, because Ayuk's going to be covered. It removes a lot of double teams. Definitely George Pickens.
Let's go to Turk Hollinger, who says, any guesses on what the Steelers give up in this type of deal?
Yes, so I'm glad that somebody brought this up. I wanted to address it, but I feel like we constantly go back and forth. Well, what do you think the deal is? The deal is this. We've said it 85 times on this podcast. So I want to talk about what the deal is. I believe that the Steelers are going to give up a third round and, I don't know, maybe a fifth, maybe a fourth, maybe even a third again next offseason. But I don't believe it's higher than a third round. If anything, it's a second round pick with a very late splash at the end, a fifth round, something like that. But it's not going to be anything crazy. I confirmed the reports of a quote unquote strong offer that Ian Rappaport reported. But at the time, their best offer was a third round pick, and pretty much just straight up a third round pick with the real late pick added in there. So I don't know what a quote unquote strong offer has become. I would imagine it's a little bit more, but I don't know if that means on the back end with another additional pick or if you've juiced up the third. But I would imagine it does not get higher than a second. There's no chance the Pittsburgh Steelers are giving up a first round pick for Brandon Aiyuk. And if they do, I'm judgmental of the trade, because at some point you're crossing a line where the risk and reward do not mix. And I think that comes with the first round pick. So I would imagine it's a second round pick max.
And that goes along with what Pittsburgh Heather asked, saying Omar said no active roster players would be part of this trade, correct?
Omar did not say that, but sources have confirmed that no active players will be part of this trade. There have been reports out there from our boy Derek Bell saying that James Daniels was part of those trades. I have not heard those same talks. I've heard that it's expected that no players will be involved in this trade.
RJ Stanley says, if we do get Brandon Aiyuk, do you see Pickens trying to get out of Pittsburgh?
In a year from now, yeah, definitely. I could see this escalating or snowballing into a trade a year from now for George Pickens to go somewhere else. And that's a question that you have to ask yourself of, okay, George Pickens is just starting to scratch the surface. What's going on there? But at the same time, that's why you don't give up a first-round pick. You don't give up a first-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk, because if your quarterback situation does not work out and you are somehow able to find yourself early enough in the first round of next year's draft to where you can draft a quarterback, which is not ideal. That's not what the Pittsburgh Steelers are looking for. That's not what their fan base is looking for. I understand that. But if you could finesse your way up there, let's say, make a trade, make a move to go up there and get somebody, you now have a rookie quarterback for 4 years, and you could easily have 2 wide receivers under massive contracts with TJ Watt and Minkah Fitzpatrick and Pat Freiermuth and so on and so forth. It could work out. Quarterback situation's a big if, but it could work out. If it doesn't, if you're signing a quarterback and you're not trying to ink 2 wide receivers, I could see George Pickens leaving in a year for sure.
Let's go to Tony's question next. He wants to know, could this contract affect Cam Hayward's next contract?
I mean, I think it does, but to be honest with you, I think signing Cam to an extension to lower his cap hit this year so that you could juice up the offer for Brandon Aiyuk just makes more sense for the Steelers. Like, allow yourself more cap space by extending Cam Hayward and use that to sign Brandon Aiyuk. I think that's the best case scenario. Now, next year you have to figure that out, but Cam Hayward's deal is not going to be a lot of money. $15 million, $16 million a year. I feel like that's a good place to be if you're the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Let's go over to Lisa's question. Lisa asks, does Pittsburgh have a backup plan if Aiyuk falls through?
Yeah, it's called the guys on the roster. They will not be. I don't see a trade coming. I believe, look, at yesterday we talked about Juju Smith-Schuster being in play for the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's what sources have told me, that if the Aiyuk situation does not work out, they look at Juju Smith-Schuster as an alternative option. I don't know if it's the best alternative option. It clearly is not Brandon Aiyuk. Maybe that's a route that they go. They'll probably wait to see who else is out there. But to be honest with you, I think they'd be very comfortable with the guys that they have on the roster, and they test those guys out first before they go and do anything crazy.
So just to clarify, Andre wants to know, if this trade falls through, do they go after CeeDee Lamb or Davante Adams? I'm saying that's a no based on your previous answer.
Definitely a no for Davante Adams. I'll tell you this, though. They're crazy not to go after CeeDee Lamb if this falls through. They're crazy. Jerry Jones, by the day, is making this situation worse. Did you see his comment yesterday saying, or 2 days ago, where it was like, CeeDee, we miss you, but you're not helping yourself by not showing up or something. And I'm like, dude, you're not helping yourself by talking. Stop talking, because you are just making this so much worse. I would say the Steelers are nuts not to go over after CeeDee Lamb. He's going to cost the same amount of money, and you could probably get him for cheaper, because Jerry Jones is going to talk himself into trading this dude for nothing, because there's just going to be such a strong distaste by the time this is all over. So I would go after him for sure. That being said, I've not heard that he's an option for the Steelers.
Let's go to Vibin' with the Dogs, who wants to know, Brandon Aiyuk, George Pickens, Pat Freiermuth, nice weapons, only one football though. So who's going to be the odd man out in that situation?
No, nobody. Why does everybody have to be the odd man out? I mean, people ask me that question constantly, and I get it. I understand the question, but why does it have to be an odd man out? Why can't Calvin Austin or Roman Wilson be the odd man out? I mean, last year, Deebo Samuel and Brandon Aiyuk and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle all made it work. So why can't the guys in Pittsburgh make it work? Like, I don't think there has to be an odd man out. I think that they'll make it work. I think you could have 2,000-yard receivers and a really strong tight end year, plus a couple of contributors and a really good running game. I think it could work. I really do. I don't think you have to have an odd man out.
Let's go to Martin next. Martin wants to know, what's the worst case if a trade is done? What do we not want to lose?
A first-round pick. A first-round pick is where the line should be drawn. You lose a first-round pick and things become very difficult for the Steelers. Like, just plain and simple. If you are now banking 100% on having a quarterback solution in a year, and that's the farthest thing from guaranteed. So you have now given up a first round. You've essentially used your first round pick in 2025 to draft a $30 million wide receiver. That's nuts. Like, that doesn't make any sense. It makes sense for a team like the Kansas City Chiefs, who have a quarterback friendly deal. I mean, as crazy as Patrick Mahomes' deal is, it's quarterback friend or it's team friendly. It makes sense for a situation like that where you have a team that's ready to win a Super Bowl and everybody's taking pay cuts to win a Super Bowl. It does not make sense in the system that the Steelers are in, where they're trying desperately to put a team together and figure out the quarterback situation, but nothing is guaranteed right now.
Brian, says, who's sweating the most with this trade? Do you think anyone is currently in panic mode?
I'll tell you this. The Ian Rappaport situation, where him tweeting out today that the deal, the terms are in place, whatever. The Pittsburgh Steelers believe that they have a deal in place. I'm taking that more as the Pittsburgh Steelers are leaking something to the media than this is any new, development in the situation. I believe that this is the Pittsburgh Steelers pushing the envelope a little bit, saying, all right, we're kind of tired of waiting. Let's do this. Let's figure this out. How long are we going to sit around and wait for you? I think that's where we're at right now. I'm not saying that they're in panic mode. They are the furthest thing from panic mode. I think that they're trying to put the 49ers into a bit of a panic mode to say, hey, look, you got to make a deal. Otherwise, this isn't going to work, because this is getting ridiculous. That's how I view this. I'm not saying anybody is, but I think the Steelers are trying to put the 49ers there.
We got a couple more Brandon Aiyuk questions. Let's start with Cynthia Edwards, who says, would this trade make the Steelers Super Bowl contenders or at least deep playoff contenders?
I believe that they're already in that boat, but I believe that this boosts them. This makes them stronger contenders than they were, and significantly stronger contenders. I mean, what you have in a Brandon Aiyuk is no joke. Like it's not it's not a small feat. It's not a small name. Like you could really push your offense and your entire team and your goals at the end of this to a whole new level by getting a guy like Brandon Aiyuk. So the answer to that one is yes. I believe that they're already there, but it takes them like it could be the difference between like a 2-minute drill against the Bills or the 49ers or something like that needs to put them over the edge.
Let's go to Joe Bateman, who says, if this trade is getting close to done, should I take advantage of the Steelers plus 750 to win the AFC North?
Oh, yeah. I would do that anyways. I'm a betting man. You know what I mean? I make the dumb bets. I make the gambles. And there are 2 bets and 2 gambles I make every year that I feel pretty good about. And that is the Pittsburgh Steelers over. I hammer that one. I always sell it, but there it is. We haven't had one of those in a while. I hammer those every year. I always get a nice dinner going with the wife afterwards. It's a good time. She knows. And then the AFC North would be another one that I feel good about. TJ Watt winning Defensive Player of the Year. I always toss a couple of bucks on too because you just never know when it's going to be his year. But yeah, 750 is a good deal right now. Just a little bit. $10, you won $75. Like I'd feel pretty all right there. It's not bad.
Let's go to Victor's question, who asks, do you think this duo could be like a mini Cooper Kupp Puka Nacua with both benefiting and getting open easier?
Yeah, 100%. Like that's all it is. That's the whole, like, how many mouths do you have to feed? Arthur Smith knows how to draw people open, man. He's a great offensive coordinator. He wasn't a good head coach and he didn't do well in Atlanta with his weapons, but he's a great offensive coordinator. Like Corey Davis tore it up in Tennessee. Jonnu Smith tore it up in Tennessee. That's how you know that he could do this. He had names that were doing well when he was an offensive coordinator. Delaney Walker was a freak of nature in Tennessee. Freaking nature. I believe that that these guys could eat. I believe this is a strong 1-2 punch with Brandon Aiyuk and George Pickens.
Let's go to GC, who says, what are the chances the Steelers get both Brandon Aiyuk and then sign Juju Smith-Schuster?
I would say slim to none. So slim to none. It's just tough to trade for Brandon Aiyuk and then say, you know what we should also do? We should go add another wide receiver because we're probably going to need one. I don't know about that one. I would love. I mean, I like Juju. I think Juju's a quality player and fits the team well, but I just don't think that's on the table for them.
Let's go to Richard Hunt's question next. Appreciate you as always, Richard, saying, are the Steelers fans yelling "you" when Brandon catches a pass after he comes to the Steelers?
I like that you tossed the uke out there. That was nice. That was nice. I don't know. That's up to you guys. I don't be yelling. I'm not allowed to be yelling in the press box, so that's all you guys. That's a good one though. Uke, Muth. Are they too similar? Too similar.
I don't think it matters.
Who cares? Yeah,
just keep going.
Just yell stuff. I like it. It's better than BA. So
True.
Yeah, I'm about it.
Let's go to Cameron's question next. Says, could this contract affect Najee or Jalen's future with the Pittsburgh Steelers?
No, I've said this a number of times. I believe that Najee Harris is already out of Pittsburgh after this season. This is his last year with the Steelers. I just don't see how you do sign him. He's either going to run himself out of Pittsburgh or he's not going to be good enough to stay in Pittsburgh. And Jalen is a tendered guy. He's an undrafted guy. You could tender him and you could get him for cheap next year. I'm talking cheap. So somebody can make an offer to him and you can match it, but he's a running back. So maybe they will, maybe they won't. Who knows? I don't think it affects them too much. I think Jalen still comes back a year from now. I don't believe Najee does.
KTH Clips asks, after getting Aiyuk, if they do indeed get Aiyuk, what is the next biggest storyline you think will come up for the Pittsburgh Steelers?
I mean, at some point we got to talk about the quarterback competition again, right? Like that was the top thing on our agenda today was who's going to start against the Bills and who should start against the Bills. And then it was, we just 2 minutes before we jumped on, we were like, all right, Brandon Aiyuk, and probably some more Brandon Aiyuk is what we should talk about. I mean, the quarterback competition would be the big one. And what do these quarterbacks look like? Because that is the now and the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And I don't know, man. I think at some point we got to talk about it.
Let's go to Adam's question next, and this is the last Aiyuk one we have so far. So if you have more Aiyuk ones, toss them in the chat. We'll get to them. Adam asks,
17 questions and of not Brandon Aiyuk. That's exciting. That's exciting.
Adam wants to know about Aiyuk. If this trade doesn't happen, how do we feel about Van Jefferson? Looks like he can have a big year next to George Pickens.
I thought he looked good in the preseason game. I thought Van Jefferson looked very competent. I'm a guy that believes that when you have a change of scenery in the NFL, it could benefit you. It can make things a lot worse, but it could also make things a lot better. And this is the first time since his second year with the Rams that Van Jefferson's going to get a real opportunity to do something in the NFL. So I think it's going to help. And I believe Van Jefferson has the capabilities to be a solid number two, not a great number two, but a solid, reliable. You know, he could come through with 700 yards, and I'd feel pretty good about that. I like what I've seen from him. I've also liked the 300 balls after practice is not a joke. Like, that's a real thing every single day. It's wild to me. But I mean, if that's helping, cool. But I'm all about Van Jefferson. I think he looks good.
We have a Brandon Aiyuk.
All right, we got close.
Here.
We got close.
We have why didn't they go get somebody like Cameron Sutton? Am I saying Cortland Sutton? Why did I say Cameron Sutton? Cortland
You're
Sutton. Cheap continuity with Russ and a true wide receiver too. Adding Brandon Aiyuk might be too many bulls in the stable.
Yeah, I think that Cortland Sutton was the better option, but he signed with the Denver Broncos, and that kind of put it out the door. I also don't know that it was like a real possibility from what I've been told. Nothing during the whole situation. I wasn't told much about it at all. Since then, I've been told that they were kind of turned down every time. They didn't even get to negotiate things, which a lot of times general managers who are stuck in their ways just do that. So, no, I'm good, and then they hang up. I believe that Brandon Aiyuk would be a great addition. I don't think it's too many bulls in the stable. I'm not worried about George Pickens and Brandon Aiyuk. Like, I think they'll be fine. I think they'll mesh well. I still think George is going to get his balls, and I still think Brandon Aiyuk is going to be Brandon Aiyuk. So I'm not really worried about it. I like that. I would welcome that. Brandon Aiyuk has always worked well with Deebo Samuel. I have zero issue that he's not going to work well with George Pickens. And I think George Pickens will adjust or the Steelers will move on because that's what you do. And I would not be worried about that because if he's going to screw it up for himself, and there's nothing you don't want that guy around anyways.
That is all the IU questions we have for right now.
Let's go.
You want to go into the regular questions then, or do you want to talk about Steelers starter on Saturday?
We'll talk Steelers starter tomorrow. Let's dive into the rest of them. All
right, let's go to the questions, starting with Kevin's question first, who says, any chance the Steelers are looking at Hassan Reddick? Appreciate you guys.
No. I appreciate you, Kevin. And I am following the Hassan Reddick thing. I made a phone call to Sports Illustrated's Jets guy the other day, a Jets writer the other day, and I asked him how things are going over there. He was not having the good time. He was not having a good time at all. Hassan Reddick, man, I don't know what's going on there. Apparently the Jets lied to Hassan. Hassan lied to the Jets. Who knows what's happening? I don't want that guy within a 10-foot pole of my team if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, just because you're good. You don't need him. And to be quite honest, the drama is not worth it. He's very good, but he's also approaching the back half of his career. I don't think it's an option for the Steelers.
JB117 says, sending love from the 570. What are some expectations for our next preseason game?
Well, there you go. There's the question. Appreciate you. I wonder who this is, so I appreciate you. The expectations for this next preseason game, I expect Russell Wilson to get the start. I know Mike Tomlin's being Mike Tomlin. He's like, I don't know who the starter is going to be. We know who the starter is going to be, Mike. Come on. We'll talk about it tomorrow, and we'll dive into it tomorrow more and more of who it should be. But let's be honest. Mike Tomlin loves pulling the media's leg, and he loves messing with us, and that's all he's doing here is just tossing out, I don't know who's going to be the starter. It's going to be Russell Wilson. It's going to be Russell Wilson. You said it after the game, and then you backtracked. My expectation is that Russ gets 2 series. Justin finishes the first half, and then Kyle Allen finishes the second half. Maybe you get some John Rice Plumlee there, 2-minute drill at the end of the fourth quarter. But that would be my expectation.
Let's go to Dalton's question next. Dalton asks, hey, peeps, just wondering, who do you think will be a surprise cut for the Steelers by the end of the preseason?
Yeah, this is a good question. So I came up with my 53-man roster yesterday, put it out, and it had 2 surprise cuts on it. Nate Herbig, who I believe could be traded, and Mark Robinson. And the reason behind both is Zach Frazier is going to start at center. I firmly believe Zach Frazier is going to start at center, and Spencer Anderson could play center, and he's looked pretty good at guard. And if Troy Fautanu's hurt, you're going to want to keep Dylan Cook. Now, if you're not going to keep Dylan Cook, that could change some things, and you could keep Nate Herbig. On the defensive side of the ball, Mark Robinson, I feel that way because, well, quite frankly, you need more corners. You need more defensive tackles. Guys like DeMarvin Leal and Isaiah Loudermilk and Montravius Adams are worth keeping more than the rest of these guys. And Tyler Matakevich is your 4th inside linebacker and could play some defense. So I look at it that way. Mark Robinson just hasn't developed the way that they thought he would, and I think this could be the end of him.
Let's go to Santiago's question. That is, what is the best Renegade moment you've ever experienced?
Oh, that's a good one. That's a real good one. To be honest with you, I'd have to really think about that. I can remember more times when Renegade didn't work than when Renegade worked. It was a long-standing joke for a long time between me and some other people that Renegade was a curse for the Pittsburgh Steelers, because if you go back and watch for like 2 years, man, it just didn't work. Every time they did it, the other team scored a touchdown. And you were like, why? Why are we still doing this? There's some good ones, but I'd have to sit down and think. I mean, like, I don't know. I feel like they played Renegade right before. No, I don't think they played it before the TJ Watt touchdown last year with Alex Highsmith. I don't remember. I'd have to go back and look. If you got a good one, toss it in the chat.
Let's go to Joshua Phelps' question in the meantime, saying, hey, Noah and Nick ever wanted to be a GM on a team? And if so, which one?
Would I want to be a general manager? I mean, no. No. I think the only people that would work more than the reporters covering an NFL team are the general manager running the NFL team. That's the only people that I believe work more and harder and don't see their family as much. So I think I'm okay with that. It would be a blast. Don't get me wrong. You want to know what I would rather do, though? I'd rather go like work for like the Pat McAfee show or something. Like, I don't know. Like, I'd rather do that than try to run a team. I'd probably mess it up too, man. Like, I don't think I'd do very well. I'd be doing if John Lynch called me and he's like, dude, we're not taking a 3rd-round pick, I'd be like, all right, suck it. I don't care, man. We'll be fine with Van Jefferson. I'm not going anywhere closer than 3rd round. I get angry too often, so I'm good.
Yeah, I don't know if I could handle that. I don't know if I could handle having my cool with another general manager that's trying to fleece me actively and be able to say, like, I know what you're doing, but it makes me mad.
No, I will say this. If I could be a general manager for a team, though, I'd definitely want to go work for Mark Davis. I don't know why, but I'd want to go work for Mark Davis.
Let's go to Dalton's question next. On Madden 25, Minka's a 93, James Daniels 76, Broderick 73, and Pickens an 83. Which rating is the biggest crime?
I think James Daniels a 76 is the biggest crime for sure. Like 80s, I would say. George Pickens an 83, I get that, but if you play a franchise, he probably develops into like a 95 after a year. Broderick Jones a 73, like only started half the season, didn't really look great the entire time. Minka a 93, I get that he was hurt last year. I just feel like James Daniels was the best offensive lineman in Pittsburgh last year, and I don't know. I would say at least an 80 for the guy. I would say that one's the biggest crime.
Let's go to Pittsburgh Heather, who says, do the Steelers keep 5 or 6 wide receivers this year? And if so, who would they be?
I believe it's 5. It'll be George Pickens, Brandon Aiyuk, Calvin Austin, Van Jefferson, and Roman Wilson. Those will be the 5.
Let's go to Samuel's question. Samuel says, hey, fellas, great pod. Who plays the slot in week 1, especially if Roman Wilson is still out?
Yeah, if Roman's out, it's Calvin Austin. Even if Roman's back, it's Calvin Austin. I think Roman will eventually work his way in there, but Calvin Austin's going to be the guy. Roman missed some time. Calvin's look good. It'll be Calvin Austin either way who starts in the slot.
Let's go down to Devin's question saying, I got to ask, from one glasses wearer to another, is that headset comfortable? Mine is. I don't know if he's asking me or you. Mine are pretty comfortable.
Yeah, mine's not bad. You'd think that it like presses the head, but no. But to be honest, I won't ever get new headphones. Like these are these are it for the rest of time. So this is, they worked, they'll work forever.
Let's go to Pittsburgh Heather again, who says, I thought Cam wanted a 3-year deal after this final year. Would the Steelers carry him for 4 years, or is it more of a 2-year contract extension?
Yeah, I think it's a 2-year contract extension. And I think he's only going to get one. Like, I think he's going to maybe 2 with a real backloaded last year with no guaranteed money. I think that could be worked out, but only a 2-year deal max.
By the way, James Reese says they did play Renegade before the TJ touchdown against the Browns. It was my first Steelers game and first Renegade moment.
That's a crazy one.
That's
that's as good as it gets, man. That's as good as it gets. That's a great moment right there. I'm glad that you were there.
Let's go over to Matt Hyde, who says, what happens if both quarterbacks don't work out for the Steelers this year?
You hope that Omar Khan didn't give up a first-round pick for Brandon Aiyuk. That's what you're hoping, because you're going to have to go to the NFL draft. That's the only way that you could do this. The Steelers have tried to duct tape this for as long as humanly possible, and maybe it works out, but maybe it doesn't work out, and you got to go to the NFL draft. That's how you do it. Every team in the history of the world has done it the exact same way. They have tried, and sometimes a veteran works out, and sometimes you realize you got to go draft a quarterback. And the Steelers are right there where if this doesn't work out, you got to go draft a quarterback. And it can't be Kenny Pickett. It's got to be somebody good. So that's where we're at.
Let's go to Sean's question, who asks, do you believe from camp that Zach Frazier is going to be a starter week 1?
Yeah, I do. I believe that Zach Frazier has already earned his starting job. I think Zach Frazier's been the second most impressive offensive lineman that has emerged this camp. The first might be Spencer Anderson, but Zach Frazier is like a very close second.
Let's go over to Anthony's question. He says, I can't remember if Nick Herbig was a starter last season, but if not, do you see him becoming a starter this season?
Nope. Alex Highsmith will be the starter. Alex Highsmith's a stud, man. You're not getting, why would you bench Alex Highsmith? He's a star, possible Pro Bowler. And then there's TJ Watt. Like, Nick Herbig's a phenomenal number 3, really, really good number 3, and that's where he belongs.
Let's go to Inevitable World, who says, favorite quarterback prospects the next couple of years. Although it is financially a good move based on the upside, I don't think Fields or Wilson is that guy.
Well, the cat's come to say hello.
That is my favorite quarterback prospect right there, is the cat.
This is the first time he's left under the bed since we've moved into the new house. Like, I don't know if he's gone to the bathroom or eaten in like 3 days. Won't let me touch him. He just stares at you like, we gonna leave again? I'm like, dude, get out from under the bed. So had to let him go. I look at the quarterback prospects in the next couple of years. I like Carson Beck a lot. I like the dude out of LSU a lot. Obviously, Archie Manning. Quinn Ewers. I like Quinn Ewers. I know people are down on him, but I think he's going to be good. Shadur Sanders is cool, but man, I would not want to cover Shadur Sanders because I don't want Deion Sanders anywhere near the Pittsburgh Steelers ever in my lifetime. Those would be my guys, but there's a lot coming out. The next 2 years of the NFL draft are pretty good when it comes to quarterback prospects.
Let's go to Pittsburgh Heather, who says, does P. Ryan or Edwards make the 53-man roster?
No, I think Jonathan Ward is the closest one who could make the roster, but I don't believe he will. As soon as Cordero Patterson touched the field the other day, he was out there and running reverses and dives up the middle and so on and so forth. So, I mean, it just was a clear indication of like, oh, that's their plan. Sounds good.
Let's go to not a question, but more of a request from Inferno SRT saying, can you give my daughter Angelina a shout out? She just swore in to the U.S. Navy while I'm watching this.
Hey, that is incredible, actually. Shout out, Angelina. Appreciate you so much. Like, thank you so much. It is it's an honor to have your daughter or to have your dad on the show, to be honest with you, and to know that you're a fan. So shout out, Angelina. We can't tell you how much we appreciate you.
For those that are tuning in late, Brownie the dog wants to know, what are y'all giving up in this trade? Still haven't answered that as of now.
I mean, I'm giving up a 3rd-round pick, but I'd give up a 2nd if they really, really wanted it, and that was it. Like 2nd and a 5th. That's all I'm doing. But I think you could get away with the third. I really do, but I would give up a second-round pick if you asked. But that back end is going to be real low compared to what I'd give up on the back end for a third-round pick.
KG, appreciate you giving us the update from Rap Sheet's YouTube, which is more from what he said on his Twitter, saying that the deal is in place between the two sides, but the 49ers want to get a deal done with Brandon, and he hasn't accepted it yet.
Yeah, that's where we've stood all week is the 49ers want to get a deal done with Brandon Aiyuk. They're waiting. Nobody's budging. The Pittsburgh Steelers are just sitting around. That's why I think that where we come from this, or what has come from this, is that it's very simple. Like, the Steelers are kind of done waiting, and they leak something to the media, and now we're running with it. You know, that's where we're at. But I think this is the Steelers kind of putting some pressure on Brandon, or on the San Francisco 49ers.
Let's go to Adam's question next, saying, if Russ has a mediocre start in this upcoming game and Fields does well, what does the competition look like then?
Yeah, I mean, if Russ doesn't look good out there, it's a real competition. Like, that's where we stand. Russ has got to look good. Russ can't suck. You know, you can't make an excuse for a guy who isn't good. And Justin brings a lot of upside, but at the same time, Justin had 2 bad snaps. He held onto the ball too long a couple of times in the preseason debut. Like, he wasn't perfect by no means. So I don't believe that he climbed himself into, like, there's one shot for Russ and that's it. So I think it just becomes more of a competition if Russ doesn't play good.
Let's go to Dio Bryant Salter, who says, with a Super Bowl push being the main goal, do you think Najee would take a team-friendly deal for a ring?
Nope, I don't. I just don't.
All right, let's go over to Branson, who asks, how does the linebacker room look this year?
Oh, looks phenomenal. Looks phenomenal. And I'll address more of the Najee thing because I understand that was a bit of an awkward answer, but I don't want to trash the guy. I don't want to say anything negative. Najee doesn't strike me like a guy who's going to take a team friendly deal, and everything he said about the running back situation over the past couple of years doesn't strike me as he's going to take a team friendly deal. How does the linebacker room look this year? It looks great, man. Peyton Wilson, I think Peyton Wilson got kind of overhyped in that preseason game. I don't think he looked nearly as good as people are trying to make him out to look like. I think he got beat in coverage once or twice. He missed a lot of tackles. He's really not that physical. He's super athletic, and if you could utilize him the right way, I think he's a beast. But Elandon Roberts is a monster, and Patrick Queen didn't even play, so he looks great. The linebacker room's filthy, man. The inside linebacker room looks so good.
Let's go to Zai, a.k.a. Zion. We got some clarity on that one. Shout out to Zion, saying, with Golden retiring, who's another edge rusher you're looking closer at?
Jacoby Windman, man. He's making a push. I mean, Jeremiah Moon had a sack, and he looked good in the preseason opener. I'm 100% for that one. But Jacoby Windman also looks real good in the preseason opener. He's looked real good in training camp. He's a name to watch. I think he's got a sneaky, like a Jameer Jones could slide his way in there as that last guy type of upside right now. He's got to show himself on special teams, but I like what I'm seeing out of him.
Let's go to Steven's question next, asking, do you think Nate Herbig played his way off the roster because of the 2 exchanges last game?
No, I don't. I don't. I don't think Nate Herbig is a natural center, and I don't think it's fair to judge him as a natural center. That being said, you can't have bad snaps, but that's also half of Justin Fields' fault and half of Nate Herbig's fault. So I don't think so. No, I think he's still a very reliable swing guard / center. I really hope that the fan base doesn't jump on this and say like, oh, Nate sucks, get him off the roster, time to cut him, because I think he's very good. It just was a bad moment for him in that preseason debut.
Let's go to the next question, back to wide receivers, which is, what are your thoughts on the Steelers potentially looking at Juju Smith-Schuster?
Yeah, I mean, I was the one that reported that the Steelers were looking at Juju Smith-Schuster. I don't know. I like it. I think it fits well in Arthur Smith's offense. I think Juju Smith-Schuster is a leader. I think what he meant to the city was very important. And I believe that he's 1 year removed from a very good year in the NFL. And I get it was with the Kansas City Chiefs. But if we're going to play the Kansas City Chiefs side of it, you got to play the New England Patriots side of it. And let me ask Nick, who was the New England Patriots starting quarterback last year? Go ahead.
Mac Jones, Bailey Zappi, Jacoby Brissett. No, that he was somewhere else. There's a lot of them.
Yeah. How many of those guys are starting this year?
None. That one's easy.
Okay. There it is. There it is. So if you're going to play one side, you got to play the other. That being said, I understand that he is not the guy he was in Pittsburgh, but I do like the potential of him working out in Pittsburgh.
Alexander has a good question here saying, is free agent Mark Kaboli going to join All Steelers Talk?
Look, I will say that I would love good old Mark Kaboli to join All Steelers Talk. I think Mark Kaboli would be a phenomenal addition to to All Steelers Talk. But from the conversations I've had with good old Mark Kaboli in the last 24 hours, because obviously I reached out, wished him well, hope he was doing good, and I think he's going to be doing just fine. I don't think he needs some All Steelers Talk. And to be quite honest, I don't know if I can match the offers of those outside of All Steelers Talk. So shout out Mark Kaboli, man. Tragic day, but it's going to turn out very well.
Let's go to Lifted Ones, who has a non-football question we can touch on real quick. Says, what's up, Noah and Nick? Can either of you guys do any impressions? Maybe a Denzel Washington. I'm not even going to attempt because I know I can't do any impressions.
No, I can't do any impressions, man. I have no voices whatsoever. I'm more of a, crack a weird joke type of guy than an impressions guy. I will tell you, Alex Highsmith does some very good impressions. Very funny impressions.
Was that his rookie showcase talent?
I don't know. I don't get to watch those, but sometimes in the locker room, he just does like random Bobby Boucher. And I'm like, I caught that walking by. That was pretty hilarious. So
I think I did see that good on their social one day of him doing a Bobby Boucher.
Yeah, he has done those on socials before, but he's done a couple of them. He's pretty good at them.
Let's go to Trey Smith, who asks, how do you think the AFC North will handle Hard Knocks? And do you expect any drama to come from it?
Yeah, I do expect some drama to come from it. I mean, you're lining up some televisions or some TV cameras in front of everybody. So yeah, I think there is going to be some drama. I don't know how they handle it. I think I'm going to ask you, see if your answer matches my answer. What team do you think is going to have the most drama of the AFC North during Hard Knocks?
Probably the Steelers. Probably the Steelers. I mean, I don't know. These teams don't strike me as very drama filled. Like the Bengals don't have a lot of drama going on. It doesn't seem like the Ravens seem like a tight ship. Maybe the Browns, depending on how their season goes. If their season goes poor quickly and by week 11 they're not looking like a playoff team, I think it could get pretty bad in Cleveland.
Yeah, Cleveland was my answer. Cleveland was my go-to, but as you said, the Pittsburgh Steelers, my mind went, yeah, George Pickens there could be some stuff there. There could be some stuff there. Russell Wilson might have some sayings. I hope Russ drops something crazy. I hope we get a Russ moment. I hope we get one Russ moment. I don't care what it is. High knees on the plains. I don't care what it is. I hope we get a Russ moment.
Let's go down to Josh Hall, who says, what are you expecting from the offense, and who do you see as the biggest breakout?
I expect the offense to be very good. They looked good in the preseason opener. Like Arthur Smith's offense, I didn't care about the results. I didn't care about the quarterback play. I simply cared about the scheme, and it looked good. Like he drew guys open. He made nice reads. He ran good screens. It was good. It was a good fluid offense. That excites me. Biggest breakout is going to be Pat Freiermuth. That's going to be my guy. Biggest breakout's Pat Freiermuth. Darnell Washington's going to be right there behind him.
Noteman32 says, can an Arthur Smith offense feed 2 stud wide receivers?
Yeah, easy. Very, very easy. Sorry, I just got we just got this one. Don't be doing that. Don't be doing that. Not in the chat. Can an Arthur Smith offense feed 2 stud wide receivers? Easy. I mean, go look at the number. What can you pull up the numbers of Corey Davis and AJ Brown? And I don't know. Just look up Corey Davis's last year in Tennessee and what his stats were, because AJ Brown was 1,000-yard wide receiver. He was a Pro Bowler. Ryan Tannehill won Offensive Player of the Year. I think Corey Davis was like 700-800 yards.
Mm-hmm. Yep, I have Corey Davis's up. Pulling up AJ Brown's. Davis in 2020 had 984 yards. AJ Brown in 2020 had 1,075.
Yeah, that's it. And then you forgot Derrick Henry was on that team. Jonnu Smith, Delaney Walker, like they had names. They made it work. Yeah, it could definitely work in 2 stud wide receivers.
Let's go to Luigi's question, which obviously, if you've been listening to All Steelers Talk for the last couple of weeks, we've had some pizza discussions here about Pittsburgh. Luigi wants to know, what pizza spot do you miss the most from back home?
My man, dude. Great, phenomenal question. It depends on the day. To be honest, it depends on the day and the style of pizza. You know what I mean? Because if like I'm going home for a weekend and my mom says like, what do you want? What's the spread that you want? I'll tell her I want Soriano's pasta. I want the penne with vodka. Easy. And for anybody who's going back to, for some reason, going to Northeast Pennsylvania, go to these places, okay? Soriano's for some penne with vodka. And they do it twice a week, Wednesdays and Sundays, the only days you can get pasta. You only have to order one. It'll last you a whole week. It's ridiculous. To be honest, like I love a good white pizza from Colarusso's. Love a good white pizza, double crusted white from Colarusso's. Sometimes I'm feeling fancy and I'll go get like Andy's because I'm like, dude, I could just devour this pizza right now. That's super cheesy. I'll bring you some one time. But if I'm going classic, man, if I'm going classic pizza, just a nice round, give me some grease on there. Jessup pizza is always just like, it's not the best. It's definitely not my favorite, but it hits the spot when you need it to hit the spot. So those would be my go-tos. Benny's is also phenomenal. And then Anthony's obviously in Wilkinsburg or in Old Forge, can't beat.
Carl Spackler has a non-football question as well. Says, question for Nick: how difficult was it to do the soundproofing in that room? Not very difficult. I mean, command strips and cardboard. And obviously you did yours just before we jumped on this show. So you could also speak to that. Yeah.
I literally just slapped in about 30 soundproofing boards because you guys heard the echo on yesterday. And yeah. So it's not bad. You could do it. Get the ones on Amazon with the stuff on the back already. It works easy.
Yeah. Then you can take out the cardboard part of the equation, which is what I should have done. Let's go back to football-based questions and go to Sierra Coopers first, who says, will TJ break the sack record this season, especially after getting snubbed for DPOY last year?
You got to hope so. I will say that he's going to be hunting for it. He's getting chip on the shoulder. He's going to be pissed. So this is the first time I think TJ was pissed that he lost the award. So I would guess yes.
Let's go to Isaac's question next, who asks, what is Justin's future after this 1-year deal?
To be decided. We'll see what happens. As of right now, we're waiting to see it out and see what happens with him and the Steelers and how he plays. And who knows? If he starts, that plays a whole other role of what the future looks like. If he doesn't start, that's a whole other situation. We have no idea. We'll get a better clue once they announce the starter, but we're a whole year removed from having any idea what's going to happen there.
Let's go to D-Man27, who says, who do you think ends the year with more all-purpose yards, Najee Harris or Jaylen Warren?
Jaylen Warren, more all-purpose. I mean, he's going to have a couple hundred receiving yards plus a couple hundred rushing yards. Like, it might be by like 10 yards, but if I had to guess, Jaylen Warren.
Let's go then to Nitro230, who says, is Drew Aller a guy to keep an eye on as long-term prospect for quarterback like the Bills did with Josh Allen?
Yeah, that's another name. Like, that's another name to watch. That's what I'm saying. There's a lot of over the next 2 years, there are a lot of prospects coming into the NFL that could play the quarterback position well, and I think the Steelers would be foolish not to consider making a move for one.
Jordan T84 says, what do you think happens if Russ doesn't start in the preseason? At some point, we need to see it, and it can't be game 1 of the regular season. So what do you do then?
Yeah, I think Russ is going to start against the Bills. I think Mike Tomlin's just pulling our leg and messing with us a little bit because that's what he does. But I expect Russ to play against the Bills.
Let's go to Pittsburgh Heather, who says, a criticism of Fields has been that he takes him too long to go through his progressions. Does Smith's offense help with that aspect?
Yeah. I mean, it's quick reads, throw somebody open. I mean, you saw it on literally the first play of the game against the Houston Texans with the screen pass to Najee Harris. It was very quick. He was just about to get sacked, got the ball out. It was a great play. George Pickens later on in the game. I agree. But at the end of the day, like, you can't just rely on your offensive coordinator making that work. You got to be able to do it. And it is the biggest question mark with Justin Fields. And it's also when that's a question mark that you don't know if it's going to get solved. You can work on the rest of the stuff. You can't always work on the mentals. And that's where we are. So yes, but it's a big question mark.
Let's go to Tyler Timberlake, who says, nothing against Najee. I love him, but do you think the Steelers are ever going to use a first on a running back again?
Yeah, definitely. I don't think they regret the Najee Harris pick at all. I really don't. I think that they think Najee's a great running back, but the running back market has priced itself out of what they want it to be, and they knew the situation coming into it. They knew what was going on. I think they will at some point. When? Who knows?
Let's go to Daniel Livingston, who asks, first-time listener here from Scotland. I'm hoping to
Hey,
wake
shout
up
out.
tomorrow to some positive Aiyuk news. Wishful thinking or no?
No, I mean, I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea, man. Like I live and die every second of this, like everybody else. Like, I'm waiting for every time my phone rings, I answer it no matter who's calling me because you just never know. I'm always freaking out. I haven't walked around with my dinger off in I don't know, a week and a half probably. I'm the dude walking down the street that's just ding 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 the whole time, and it's where we're at. So I hope so. I hope it ends eventually, but who knows? Who knows? I'll tell you this. I don't think that the whole trade in place thing moves this faster at all. I think it's just the Steelers trying to put some pressure on the situation.
Let's go to Eric's question next. Only a couple more here. Aside from injury, does Fields see a start this season?
As of right now, I would say no, but that could change. That could change. But right now, I would say Russell Wilson is the starter for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Let's go to Adam's question next, who asks, I noticed Arthur Smith loves using crossing routes. How do we think Roman Wilson fits into that?
Beautifully. Beautifully. Physical wide receiver with very reliable hands and loves to use the middle of the field. I think it fits perfect. And you saw it in training camp before he got hurt. I think it's going to work very well.
Let's go to X Concepts next, who says, can we sign back Gunner and then trade him straight up for Brandon Aiyuk?
Crazy enough, I was actually thinking about Gunnar Olszewski today. He was my random Pittsburgh Steelers wide receiver that was running through my head all day. It was Gunnar Olszewski. Hope he's doing well. I don't know where he is. I want to say the Giants still, but I hope he's doing well, man. Shout out Gunnar Olszewski.
Let's go to Zai again, who says, sorry to get off football again, but with all of us being cat dads, what are their names? Mine are Cookie and Mr. Lily.
Mr. Lily's a good one. Mr. Lily's a good one. Mine are, I got 4 of them. Don't judge me. 2 and 2. I had 2. The wife had 2. We became a family of 4. We could never own another animal again in our lives. Mine are Fitzy and Bella. I call her Cheese. The other 2 are Ivy and Mr. Flynn. So
I got 2. One's Dash, one's Indy, and I don't have any more than that, nor will I have any more than that until I get bigger place.
You don't even do it when you have bigger place, man. You don't want. They're just. I have a king size bed and it's not big enough, so you don't want it.
I'm gonna quote you to my wife when she asks for another cat. So just
go ahead, tell her call me. Tell her call me. I'll send her a picture of my bed at night and how I sleep. It's not enjoyable.
Let's finish it off with Jordan's question, who asks, who do you think will be the main kick returner for the Steelers this year?
I believe it'll be Cordero Patterson. That's where I see things fitting in right now. That's why they signed him to bring him here. I was skeptical about whether or not he was going to be like a guy that they could utilize now that he's back from injury. It literally took one play for him to be back on the field. He scored a touchdown on that play on a reverse. I think the Steelers are looking at it and they still feel very confident that Cordero is their guy. So if I had to guess, Cordero Patterson.
And by the way, Gunnar Olszewski still a member of the New York Football Giants.
Shout out to Gunnar Olszewski. Hope he's doing good, man. Hope he's doing good. His departing gift to me or to, I don't know, whoever, but it was like the day before he got cut. It was just the day before he did give me a good old can of chew. So shout out, shout out Gunnar Olszewski. I'm not a chew guy, but he's very influential. Gunnar Olszewski's a very you should do nicotine and tobacco type of guy. I think it's the Texas in him. I couldn't tell you, but you could ask Chase Claypool. He pushed it hard on Chase. He at one point pushed it hard on me. So I didn't do it, but it's still in my truck somewhere. Shout out Gunnar Olszewski.
That's a wrap for today's questions then.
All right. With that said, guys, we are heading out of here. Thank you so much for jumping on to another episode of All Steelers Talk. Make sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, youtube.com/All Steelers Talk. Check us out anywhere you get your podcasts. And as always, find all of our work at si.com/NFL/Steelers. The Brandon Aiyuk saga roller coaster ride continues, and we will have every update along the way. So make sure that you are checking all of our work out on SI and on here for more updates. We will be back tomorrow. Enjoy another beautiful day in the Berg. Peace.